The area of a triangle equals 1/2 base times height. The area of a triangle equals 1/2 base times height. Bobis bit, bimis bitis bunt. Bobis bit, bimis bitis bunt. First conjugation, future tense, future tense. 5 cases of nouns. I said there's 5 cases of nouns. 5 cases of nouns. I said there's 5 cases of nouns. Subject, direct object, indirect object. Subject, direct object, indirect object. Object of the preposition possessive. Object of the preposition possessive. Subject, direct object, indirect object. Subject, direct object, indirect object. Object of the preposition possessive. Object of the preposition possessive. In 1945, after the League of Nations failed to prevent World War II, American President Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Churchill, and Soviet Premier Stalin began the United Nations. In 1945, after the League of Nations failed to prevent World War II, American President Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Churchill, and Soviet Premier Stalin began the United Nations.
This is CC Cycle 2, Week 18 History. Tell me about the United Nations. So it starts off with in 1945, so you're just going to assign 45. 45. In 1945, after that, like you're hitting a baseball, League of Nations failed, your hands go down, to prevent World War II. American President Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Churchill, and Soviet Premier Stalin began the United Nations. Okay? So we'll start again from the beginning. In 1945, after the League of Nations failed to prevent World War II, American President Roosevelt, British Prime Minister Churchill, and Soviet Premier Stalin began the United Nations. Good luck.
What is Newton's third law of motion? Newton's third law of motion states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. What is Newton's third law of motion? Newton's third law of motion states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction.
This week, we will be studying more Central European countries. So it starts off with Italy, which is right here, the boot, followed by Austria, which is kind of above it and to the east, this pink area. Then Hungary more to the east, this little, looks like a kidney bean, it's orange. Then Czechia is this purple area that's above Slovakia, and then Slovakia is underneath Czechia. So now I ask and you point, where is Slovakia? Where is Czechia? Where is Hungary? Where is Austria? And where is Italy? And now I point and you tell me.
Genghis Khan rules the Mongols, England's Magna Carta, Ottoman Empire, Marco Polo's journey to China, 100 Years' War, and Black Death, the Renaissance, China's Ming Dynasty. Yes. Timeline, this is my timeline. Age of exploration, circa 1400 to circa 1800. Prince Henry founds the School of Navigation, slave trade in Africa. Gutenberg's printing press, Shanghai in Africa. Tsar Ivan the Great of Russia, the Spanish Inquisition. Columbus sails to the Caribbean. 1500 AD, 1500 AD, age of absolute monarchs, circa 1500 to circa 1800. Protestant Reformation, Spanish conquistadors in the Americas, Calvin's Institute of the Christian Religion, Council of Trent, Baroque period of the arts, Japan's isolation, Jamestown and Plymouth colony founded, Age of Enlightenment, circa 1650 to circa 1800. Hudson Bay Company, First Great Awakening, Classical period of the arts, the 7 Years' War. Phew! Timeline, timeline, this is my timeline. Age of Industry, circa 1760 to circa 1969. James Cook sails to Australia and Antarctica. American Revolution and General George Washington. Madison's Constitution and the Bill of Rights. French Revolution. The Second Great Awakening. Louisiana Purchase and Lewis and Clark Expedition. Napoleon crowned Emperor of France. Liberation of South America. The War of 1812. The Missouri Compromise. Immigrants flock to America, the Monroe Doctrine, romantic period of the arts.
Cherokee Trail of Tears, U.S. westward expansion. Marx publishes the Communist Manifesto, the Compromise of 1850, and the Dred Scott Decision. U.S. restores trade with Japan. British Queen Victoria's rule over India. Darwin publishes The Origin of Species. This is CC Week 18 timeline. Starts off with Cherokee Trail of Tears. So the Cherokees were Native Americans, so we're going to do that same sign like we did earlier on in the timeline, where we're going to take our index and thumb and come like from our nose to our lips, like kind of like the ring, and then up like they're painting. So Cherokee Trail of Tears, and then you're going to have 4 fingers come down like you're crying. So Cherokee Trail of Tears. Then U.S. westward expansion, make that super easy. You're going to do a W and you're just going to come across your body left to right. U.S. westward expansion, Marx publishes the Communist Manifesto. So the sign for communism was just putting your fist forward. So Marx publishes the Communist Manifesto, like you're writing it because he wrote it. Then you have the Compromise of 1850 and the Dred Scott Decision. So just like Missouri Compromise, we're going to touch our head and come together like we're compromising. The Compromise of 1850 and the Dred Scott Decision. So if you remember earlier in history, for this cycle 3, we talked about how Dred Scott was a slave and he left the South to the North. And he went to court to see if he could be free because he lived in the North now, but they said, no, because you're from the South, you're still a slave. So he remained a slave, the Dred Scott Decision, and so you would just show he's a slave. The Compromise of 1850 and the Dred Scott Decision. U.S. restores trade with Japan. So kind of like we did the immigrants last week, we're showing unity here. So the U.S. restores trade with Japan. Here we show the island. British Queen Victoria's rule over India. So British were known for or England, known for that handshake again. So British Queen Victoria's, you're gonna show a V for her, rule. So for this one, it's like you're taking the reins of a horse. So she's rule over India. There's your bindi. So we'll do that again. British Queen Victoria's rule over India. And then you have Darwin publishes The Origin of Species. So you're gonna make a D sign for in ASL. So Darwin publishes, like you're writing it, The Origin of Species. We're gonna do the sign like we did the beginning of the ages, how we went between the index and middle finger and started like a car. That means origin. So we've got Darwin publishes The Origin of Species. So let's do that from the beginning. Cherokee Trail of Tears, U.S. westward expansion, Marx publishes the Communist Manifesto, the Compromise of 1850 and the Dred Scott Decision, U.S. restores trade with Japan, British Queen Victoria's rule over India, and Darwin publishes The Origin of Species. Good luck!
Oh, I just love being rocked and cuddled and singing the timeline and learning all this history. Who's that guy? Ah! This experiment is called Lifter, and its purpose is to determine how a screw works. For the materials, all you need is a screw. You hold the head of the screw with one hand, you put 2 fingernails on the first ridge at the tip of the screw, and then you turn the head of the screw clockwise. Results. As the screw turns, the ridges spiral downward. Your fingers stay in place and this unique winding road moves past them. Why? The screw is an example of a simple machine called an inclined plane that is wrapped around a cylinder. The screw is like a winding wedge. The closer the threads are together, the easier it is to turn the screw. Screws are used to connect things, but they are also used to lift things. For example, screw jacks lift houses and cars. This experiment is called RAMP, and its purpose is to demonstrate that a winding mountain road is an inclined plane. For this, you will need scissors, a ruler, a sheet of paper, a pencil, and cellophane tape. The first thing you're going to do is cut a 5-inch square from the paper. Here I am tracing the 5 inches. Then you're going to draw a diagonal line across the square and cut across the line. Then you're going to color the longest edge of the paper triangle with the pencil. And then you're going to tape the triangle to the pencil. And then finally you'll wind the paper onto the pencil. The results are that the color side of the triangle is shaped like a ramp. Wrapping the paper around the pencil makes it look like a winding road or a screw. Why? An inclined plane is a sloped surface. Like the threads on a screw, a winding road is an inclined plane. If the road could be unwound, it would look like the long colored side of the paper triangle. It is true that it is farther up a road winding around a mountain than it would be directly up the mountain side, but it takes much less effort to travel the longer distance. The inclined plane is a simple machine that makes a job easier. In this case, the job is climbing a mountain. Vincent van Gogh, born in 1853, discovered painting after he had tried and failed at other professions, from an art dealer to a preacher. All of Van Gogh's 800 or more paintings were created in the last 10 years of his life. He tried to express his thoughts and emotions in his artwork, often working day and night without stopping, spending all of his money on paint, and even forgetting to eat. Van Gogh's paintings are filled with color, swirling images, and intense feelings. One way that Van Gogh showed emotion in his work was to make lines of color spreading out into the background, swirling in concentric rings or circles. His paintings show rings of light surrounding stars in a nighttime sky or radiating from a hot summer sun. The paint looks like ripples made when a stone is tossed into a still puddle. This feeling can be created in a painting of a starry night in the style of Vincent van Gogh, which is exactly what our children at CC will be doing this week, trying to mimic his starry night.